All right. So this is a little segment I like to call Local Man Does Podcast. My name is Craig Power. I am the broker and owner of Power Realty Advisors serving Greater Boston and South Shore. And I am joined today by a very special guest, of course, a widely renowned real estate agent servicing Central Massachusetts, now a successful rookie flipper, and dare I say, Instagram influencer, Holly Frongillo. Thanks for taking the time.
No problem, Craig. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I consider you I'm thinking you might not call yourself a full-on Instagram influencer, but I think that's like a fair categorization right there.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go full on. I think you have to be paid to do it to be totally considered an influencer. But yeah, I've been trying to make sure my social media game is on point. In a previous life, I was a social media marketing manager, so can't really have my social media game be lacking with my history, but it's definitely proved to be important. It's helped me get traction with clients, with other realtors. I think you and I met on Instagram. So yeah, definitely all perks.
Yeah, 100%. I didn't know you had that social media manager background, but that adds up. That makes sense. Yeah. Well, I'm excited to have you here. And I think this is going to be great, very valuable content for people because we are talking house flipping. Which is a very attractive topic, the HGTV shows, all that. This can be I'm thinking we're going to call this like our rookie guide to flipping. And, I thought it would be cool. You're in this position where you're wrapping up your first flip. I've done one flip in my career going back to 2018, which is basically a completely different market, ancient history in real estate. So a while ago now, but I thought, flipping, like I said, pretty attractive topic. So we can go through each of our deals, how they came about, lessons learned, and all that. If that's good with you, we can dive right in.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Love it. So, and then, first I can answer this question for myself afterward, but how did you find the deal? Because that's always everybody's biggest question when it comes to flipping is like, how are you finding deals?
Yeah, so I think it's a big misconception that you can't find a good deal on MLS. You absolutely can. It's not only off-market deals. So this deal in particular did hit the market. I am a very loyal member of an online community called Bigger Pockets. I don't know if you're familiar. You must be. Yeah.
All right. We're already into Bigger Pockets. I love it. Yeah.
So I'm a premium agent there, and I use their calculators and their deal analyzers pretty religiously. So I analyzed probably 30 or 40 different properties and made offers on 3 or 4 before I came to the property that I ended up under agreement on. But it was a rare, not really COVID, but early 2022, reasonably priced property for the condition that it was in. So I think I was competing with one other cash offer and I did not use cash. And it ended up working out. It took a lot of analyzing. Not every deal is a good deal, but you just need to just run numbers and it starts to become, like second nature to be able to do so after a while. So
I'm so glad you jumped right in on that because that is such a huge skill set. And they talk about it. Like I sort of started listening to that Bigger Pockets podcast years ago. And especially the earlier episodes of like the main podcast are great. Now they're like so rich that like, you turn it on and you're like, this is not relevant to me. They're talking about these like syndication deals with 200 people and these giant buildings and mobile home parks and all this stuff. Like it's not as relevant as like a single, investment property. But I do remember them saying it was like one of the first things I absorbed like years ago was like, just analyze deals, just like try to like understand the metrics and like, I remember getting into this rhythm of like, okay, I just want to analyze like a deal or two a day. It was like it was almost like, an exercise for my brain or something. When I was first getting into it years ago. And obviously, it's tough in the market today just to find a deal. So you could end up analyzing, 200, 300 deals and being like this, there's nothing out here, sometimes the situation turns your way. But that's awesome. So are you still a loyal listener of Bigger Pockets? I know you said you're a premier member over there.
Yes. I am a loyal user. I don't listen to the podcast as much anymore, just for lack of time, honestly. Yeah. And like you said, only so many of the episodes are relatable to someone who is newer to their investment journey. So
yeah, exactly. But that's pretty cool. So you found it on the MLS, and that is one thing that's sort of interesting, and it's sort of like how we try to handle, at our best, the housing market today, where like you can find some situational edge, with just an example, right? I remember peak COVID, it was like April or May, and they started doing open houses where you had to do like an appointment, but they would still only let you have like a limited window. So if you got in early enough and you were one of like the 8 appointments, like that was already like a situational edge, because at some point they started saying like we weren't taking any more appointments,
right.
And sometimes you can find those like situational edges or like something listed incorrectly on MLS. So that's pretty cool that you were actually able to find it on MLS. That's sort of the dream, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. Not have to be able to door knock or send mailers out or cold call people. It's just that aspect has never really been my thing. So just making sure that I'm able to move quickly when something hits MLS, which obviously being an agent helps a lot.
Yeah.
Is definitely key.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know. Actually, the house that you bought. Actually, could you tell us like a little bit about the house that you got under agreement to? Because I was curious about that. What I know of it, I know from your Instagram. And it looks great, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. So it is an old house. I know I definitely didn't go the traditional first-time flipper route of just needing cosmetic updates. I pretty much dove in headfirst to a major fixer-upper. So the house was built in the late 1800s, and it was owned by one family since then. So for 130 years. And unfortunately, the gentleman that lived there before, as it was explained to me, he was an older gentleman that was being moved into a retirement home, I believe, and he had not really kept up with the property. Let's just put it that way. So it was, it had a new roof recently, had a new furnace recently, so some of the bones were good. But otherwise, you walk in and it was all crumbling horsehair plaster. The bathroom was immediately inside the back door, so you would open the back door and there's immediately a shower and a toilet. It was just really strange. Everything needed to be redone. So again, it was not cosmetic. It was not just paint and countertops and fixtures. It was bringing it down to the studs in some cases, updating the insulation, 100% brand new electrical throughout the house, including the service outside, 100% brand new plumbing throughout the house. I added a second bathroom, so totally renovated 2 bathrooms and totally renovated the kitchen, and updated it to be a legal 4-bedroom. So in public record before, it was only a 1-bedroom because only one of them had closets. Added closets, did some reconfiguring, and just, it's a completely different house. So it was not
no kidding. Yeah.
It did a lot of work.
Yeah, that's so interesting you say that, because we've gone about this like in 2 very different ways, right? So, and I'll kind of get in on the flip I did. Again, totally different market. It was years ago too, where things were just maybe a little bit less crazy and wasn't all this like up and down anxiety about interest rates. But you did the thing of like, you really changed the layout. And that is one thing I noticed from your Instagram stories was like, you had this older house and you were really like looking at the like functional problems with it that would like deter, future buyers. And I noticed you did sort of like make some adjustments to the layout and everything, which is really cool. And that's ours was like almost the opposite, where it was like, and I'll get into it. And I'm sort of hoping like my partners on it from years ago, like even listen to this at some point. It was a pretty unique situation where I worked at a rental brokerage in Boston, and there was an older gentleman. It's sort of, similar in that vein, right? He owned multiple condos in the building. And I actually knew him because I used to manage the building or whatever. And he knew everybody that seemed to work for the rental office. And he came in one day, he said, "Hey, I'm selling the vacant condo around the corner." And one of the agents in the office was like, "Okay, yeah, we can list it for, this much." And, and he pretty much responded like, "No, my financial advisor says I need to get out of this thing. Like, do you want to buy it?" Like I walked over here, do you want to buy it? So first lesson is, at least for me, was like recognizing opportunity, right? Because just like that, I was made aware of an off-market, essentially distressed property. I ended up buying it with two partners, both worked in the office. I definitely cannot credit myself with knowing all the early moves. You know what I mean? Like creating an LLC, the loan we ended up using, even the financial structure, I can't take credit for that. But I would say when I heard the story of the situation, like an off-market lead, I was pounding the table for it. I do at least I can take credit for that, and that actually I was curious about. And I know you're still in the middle of this deal. You're kind enough to talk about it with me. Are you the sole owner of it? Did you do it with partners? I was just kind of curious about sort of the ownership structure, whatever you can share.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm the sole owner. I bought it under my own LLC. I have investment partners, but no one who's actually purchased the property with me.
Yeah, that's good for you. Good for you. And I'm glad you also kind of talked about the other kind of known strategies made famous by BiggerPockets for finding deals too. Like people do mailer campaigns and stuff like that, cold calling, everything. I'm glad neither of us had to go that route because it sounds agonizing.
Right, it does. And I think it's something that you need to have a lot more time on your hands to be able to do, and just plan on being an investor full time, because obviously you and I are both very busy as full-time realtors. So trying to do that and juggle both at the same time is just not realistic. Yeah.
Did you ever at any point look at it like maybe you'd want to see, and I guess that actually gets into, I was going to ask you about renting it, but I guess the it's more important to talk about the financing, right? Because that's another thing that people would be curious about. You told me about the ownership structure, but how did you fund the deal? Essentially, I think people would be curious to know.
Sure. Yeah. So I used a commercial loan. It's it was a more creative sort of construction loan style of commercial loan, where they gave me an initial disbursement. And then I did withdrawals from the remainder of the construction funds periodically. But they still required 20% down, and I did not have that. So I used other people's money. I think that's another bigger
nice.
Thing. But
that's great.
I found some investors, some family members that were willing to invest the down payment for me. We did it, very formally. They have second lien on the property after the, original mortgage holder. That is the main funding, and they, everything was drawn up with attorneys, just like you would if you had gone to the bank for the down payment.
No kidding.
So far $0 out of pocket, which has been awesome.
That's awesome. Good for you. Yeah. So that's cool. So that's a really cool strategy. And it's funny, when you find the deal, right? Another lesson learned from BiggerPockets. I guess I'm just going to have to tag them in this somehow or whatever. But when you find the deal, that's really the hardest part, right? Is the finding of the deal, because you can, if you have the deal at the right price, it seems you can find the money, right? It seems like people are there that are ready for the opportunity, right?
Right. And it's not a lot of people hear that, I use other people's money and just think, well, she had family members that were just rich and willing to give her this money. And that was not the case. I'll just be super straightforward. My parents invested in this one with me. And my dad's a businessman. He's a financial advisor, so he's self-employed as well. I brought a presentation to his office, and I gave him a business proposal, and I laid out why he should invest in this with me. So you really have to have a game plan. You can't just be some random person who's never gotten into real estate before, who's never, flipped a house, never done anything, and expect someone to just give you money. Obviously, you have to have a little bit of a business sense and some people that have some faith in you. But yeah, it's so far it's been working out.
100%. And so on our deal, again, going back to the Boston condo flip, and it's such a similar thing, like what you said with your dad, being a financial advisor, he probably knows I'm sure he understands that it's really not about it's not a sweat equity project, right? It's financial analysis.
Mm-hmm.
It's a projection. that makes like a flip successful, and going back to ours, different situation again, but because the financing part of it is really creative, it was like we had 3 partners total. It was a 3-member LLC. And I remember the operating agreement was like 2 sentences long. It wasn't complicated, but we ultimately used a hard money loan, or private lending to quickly close on the deal. And the benefit of working in a rental office is you have a line on some very shrewd financial minds, aka landlords, like all the time at your fingertips. So we got a high interest loan from a landlord. Who that's part of his business, right? He does like promissory notes, and in order to get the loan, we had him come through to evaluate the deal himself, which I'm sure, like you said with the presentation, that's really what these lenders do. It's sort of like their own type of appraisal, right? Where, he came through, he saw the property, he saw our offer price, he saw the loan amount, he just saw the whole deal. And so ultimately he was happy to extend us that financing because he knew the deal looked good and he knew we were getting it at the right price, which,
right.
I think that's sort of the biggest lesson in the flipping game, right? Is the entire game is about purchase price, the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important. I mean, if the numbers don't work off the bat, you can't say maybe it'll work, maybe it'll sell for more. Because in my case, I went under agreement on the property in early April of this year, and obviously the market has changed a little bit since early April of this year. I know we won't go into detail on it, but I had to leave room for error, and I left the room for error, and we'll see what happens with it. But yeah, you really have to make sure that you're not buying it for more than makes sense.
Yeah, no, and all I know from yours for sure is you did a home run on that renovation. It looks incredible. So congrats on that. That's got to feel pretty cool. The purchase price thing is interesting, and I've sort of explained, like, you see the signs for like we buy ugly houses, or maybe do you keep up on like the Open Door stuff? Do you follow Open Door at all?
A little bit. I honestly just haven't had the time or energy since I've been working 2 jobs to check up on it lately. But.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the thing with Open Door, it's basically. The lesson from this is you can flip property anywhere if you're getting it, 15% below what it's worth on the open market. Right. That's the we buy ugly houses business model is, they basically assess market value and they come in way below it. Open Door, they're actually like, I think you'll see Open Doors like offer on realtor.com now. A lot of people. Yeah, I've seen that. Open Door is a big company. So for a while, I'm about to go on like a tangent because I hate Zillow, but that's a thing. Real estate agents, we hate Zillow. It's fun, but I hope I'm not putting you in a bad spot with your friends at Zillow, Holly. But no, Zillow is for a while they got into the house flipping game, right? And they were doing this thing where they were making basically blind offers on houses. I think it was really big and like it was all over, but I know they had like a lot in like the Phoenix market or whatever. And they were kind of overpaying for stuff. And Open Door seems to be doing what they were doing in a just much more savvy way. So if you look on Realtor.com now on your house, you can probably see Open Door's offer for your house. And it's probably way less than your house is worth. Right. But yeah, so you told me about I'll get back on the renovation for your flip and everything like that. I was curious about like, the way you've been, and I know we went through some of these details already, but flipping, of course, is like a margin business. So I was kind of curious, like strategically, if there were any sort of like strategic decisions along the way, cost versus value that you were like, maybe we, hold off on these lights, or maybe we go extra nice on this or whatever. I was curious about that.
There was, yeah. I mean, so even since the market slowed down a little bit from when I bought it to when I planned on listing it, I knew that was happening, and I definitely had to make some decisions to do more of the work myself than I had originally planned. So I'm sure you saw this on Instagram as well, but I definitely was in there.
Yeah, you were.
Again, with the help from my dad, who is a jack of all trades and is a saint and does everything. But I did a lot of the work myself. I was going to hire painters. I had a budget for painters. I opted out. So the whole place, with the exception of just a quick spray primer, I painted myself. yeah, I definitely had to use more reasonable finishes. I mean, higher quality, but I didn't need to, break the bank on tile or on flooring or anything like that. It just needed to look significantly better than it did, and I made sure that I did it correctly. So as long as it was being done correctly and it wasn't the lipstick on a pig type of flip that you sometimes see.
Yeah, it's definitely not, at least per Instagram and MLS. It's definitely not one of those. Yeah.
Right. And as an agent too, I mean, I tour buyers through flips all the time, and you can tell as an agent when it's been done correctly and when it hasn't been. And just, having somewhat of a moral compass, I couldn't just do the lipstick on a pig thing. I had to make sure it was done right. So all of the bones are great. And I definitely made sure to prioritize the major systems and all the bones, and also have it look good. So in order to do that on a budget, I like I said, I definitely had to get my hands dirty. So
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I did notice that, because again, sort of similar trajectory with ours years ago. I'm not sure I have any flips in my immediate future. I wish I did, but the condo flip we did in 2018. I remember we tried to go. It was like yours, where we tried to go step above on quality, purely for that, like you said, you've toured enough homes, you know what it looks like or feels like when you walk into like a super margin flip, where it just feels like empty or cold or not lived in, and you can sort of see the little areas where they tried to save money or whatever. And I remember we were divided on a couple different things with the renovation years ago. We were divided on everything, but in a friendly way. But I remember like we were divided on pendant lighting, because it was going to involve like a lot of additional electrical work. It was going to involve like opening the walls essentially back up, and I was against it, because I was looking at it, I was like, let's just get out. Like, we're doing okay. This is a home run. Let's just But truthfully, it was the right call. It was totally the right call because of exactly that thing. It was, it brought us a step above, the usual margin flips. And we were also lucky where, you did so much changing of the layout to bring it to like that modern style. We were fortunate where the reason it worked so well was we didn't have to change the layout really at all. It was purely like, it was only 486 square feet. So it wasn't like we were working with that much space. But we were just purely taking that layout and like adding a breakfast bar and nice lighting, stainless appliances, nice countertops, all that stuff. So, but yeah, so you just hit the market, right? Just hit the market. That's going to be pretty exciting. Feeling good about that?
It is, yeah. It's a huge relief to have it done. Everyone's like, oh, you must be so happy, so relieved. I'm like, yes. But now we need to switch back into realtor mode and market it and get it sold. But it feels good. Everyone's feedback has been fantastic so far as it looks beautiful. I've had some neighbors come by and tell me how awesome it looks. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, that's great. Did you find, this is sort of unrelated, but did you find that like the work going into the flip, like you're probably putting so much time into it, did you feel like it was taking away from your like regular brokerage business?
No, not too much. I mean, I definitely prioritized my duties as a realtor whenever I needed to. What ended up getting deprioritized was downtime and social life.
Yeah.
To be totally honest with you. So I don't really feel like I had a summer. I was there all weekend, every weekend when I wasn't hosting an open house or touring buyers, and a lot of weekdays as well. So I definitely stayed as disciplined as I could. And if there was ever a day on my calendar where I didn't really have much going on, it was, okay, what can I get done at the flip today? Let's go do it. So
yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, yeah, it looks like a total home run. Whoever the buyer is will be very, very lucky. And then I guess my last question would just be like, if you had one, and we might have even gone over it, but one big sort of first time flipper lesson that you learned, and by all means, repeat yourself if we went over it, but just from this experience, if there was one thing that you would advise people.
Sure. Yeah. Honestly, no, we didn't touch base on it. It's just that you don't know what you don't know. So if you are not already a tradesman or a contractor and you've never done a gut renovation before, there's a lot to learn. I did not hire a general contractor. I GC'd it myself. So I was the one coordinating all the trades, when, where, why, and how to show up. And I had never done that before. I had done renovations before to my own houses, room by room, minor stuff, but I had never, again, ripped something down to the studs and built it back up. So I definitely made some scheduling mistakes as far as which contractor needed to be where and when, but just keep in mind that you will learn a whole lot very quickly from a not ground up, but gut renovation like the one that I did. Make sure that you take advice from people who know more than you. Make sure that you touch base with your contractors as much as possible. I did a little bit of a dance in that I didn't want some of them to know that it was my first major renovation, because obviously first-time flipper, people may or may not take advantage of you. Being a female first-time flipper, people may or may not take advantage of you even more. So, I leveraged a lot of my relationships with friends and family that did have better construction experience than me, to make sure I sounded like I knew what I was talking about. But yeah, biggest lesson is definitely just know ahead of time that you do not know everything. And that there will be things that you run into and different processes that you didn't think of, and you will need to be super flexible on changes and timelines and just,
Yeah, and I bet now you have that sort of life experience that will even better serve your regular real estate clients too, which is pretty cool.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, and that's something I said from the beginning, and part of what the conversation with my dad, who was my investor, is, even if I make $0 after you get all your money back and something catastrophic happens and I make no money on it, which obviously isn't the goal, but the silver lining is still going to be, I do work with clients who buy fixer-uppers and who are investors, and now I have 200% more knowledge about what they go through and what they look for in properties than I did before I did this flip.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, congratulations again on jumping on that. That's awesome. And I like I said, I hope this, I have a feeling this is going to serve somebody out there very well, the rookie flipper guide. So, but thank you again, Holly, for joining me, and you're doing awesome work. And I know you're busy, so thanks for taking the time. I highly recommend following Holly's Instagram. Where can everybody follow you, Holly?
So the Instagram is at home by Holly, separated by underscores. So home_by_Holly. That is the easiest place to find me. It's also posted all over my car. So if you see me driving around town, that's the easiest place to find me. Everything from there on Instagram is linked in my bio. So whatever you need.
Awesome. Thank you again for taking the time. My name again is Craig Power with Power Realty Advisors. You can email me anytime at craig@powerrealtyboston.com. Thank you again, Holly. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Bye-bye.